Hey guys, and welcome back. So last time we did some object creation, and I want to continue by actually showing how we can delete things. So most things you can right click in here, or actually all things you can right click in here and say delete, and that's just going to delete that object here. So let's say I dragged in a cube here, and I want to see if I can delete this automatically. So cube, let's start by searching for it, and we can see we have access to the cube. So in case we want to delete everything called cube or just this particular one, so let's say we dragged in a few cubes here. So you can see it's got cube 1 and cube 2, and if we search for everything called something with cube, right now we just also print the translation. So let's get rid of that for just a moment. So instead of just printing it, what we can do, we can actually print it still, but we can ask the cube to delete itself. So just by that. And that basically corresponds to right clicking all the shift clicking all these and saying delete. So it's not like it's terribly difficult to do, but this is just the way you can automate this task of deleting several objects at the same time here. So obviously, if you want to start doing scripting here, you want to make sure that you actually have a valid object here. So in this case, it's kind of trivial, but you want to do things generally, like saying if component, then do this, because that's just going to make sure that you do have an object, and that object is valid. So in this particular case, it's not really necessary, but in general, you want to make sure that you have a component whenever you execute something on that object. Or generally, for example, also the long name here, we'll probably put also this inside here. Otherwise, if this is not a component, or if this is not an object, if it's a none, which is the equivalent to a null, then this will be invalid and it's going to throw an error. Okay, so let's continue a little bit further with this and see what else we can do of fun stuff. So we had a property before the translation. We saw that translation was something we could find in our F-curves. And we can find the scaling, we can find the IK blend, we can find some custom properties and stuff. So we can find a number of these things in here. And if we switch to the properties as well, we'll find something similar in here, and we can see this one is the translation, the X, Y, and Z, and this is the rotation, X, Y, and Z, and we have the scaling, X, Y, and Z, and so on. And we also have the IK blend, which is this little slider here, and we have the IK pull and stuff like that. We have a bunch of other stuff here. So if we just drag in a new cube again, let's do that so we have something to look at. And instead of deleting it, we want to maybe print component dot, and then let's examine some of these. So we have for example, the viewer options here. So we know it's got a show property, so we can print out the show value like this. So this is going to print out true, and we have a bunch of other stuff. So for example, show trajectories, component.show. So show trajectories is set to false, but it doesn't have a similar one in here. So how do we get access to that? In this example here we had last time, I can't remember if it was this one or one of the other examples. Okay, never mind, not this one, sorry. Well, just to cut this short, if you can't find it in the short list here, or aliases, I believe it's called, then you can always use the property list like this, and then .find, and then you can see here what it's called. So show like this, and then you can print this out. Let's see what this gives us. So it gives us something, and then we want to get the value, and it's got no value, but it's got maybe data or something. I don't know. Yeah, data it's called. So that's a way of getting this show trajectories property, even though you can't find it just by using the dot notation. So that this is going to come in pretty handy at times. So let's get the translation, or maybe let's get the rotation instead, this way. So this is going to give us the rotation of our component. And if we just rotate this one and then run the script again, and we see apparently no difference. So this is actually a funny thing, because we can see it is rotated, and for some reason we can also see in the properties, if we watch down here for the rotation, we can see that the rotation is changing, but the rotation that we get out of this when we get it is FB vector 3D, which says 0, 0, 0. So the funny thing about this is that this little LCL, so the way to get that is, you would think maybe I could type in LCL like this, and that's exactly what you can do. I believe you can also type LCL just like this. No, that's my bad. Okay, so you need to type in this, and that's going to give you the, I believe it's the local rotation values. So that's going to give you the FB vector 3D representing this rotation here. So again, this is a good way of finding properties that you may not have access to just by using the property name. So as you can see, we have the rotation, and we don't really have rotation local as far as I can see here. So yeah, I think actually that was what I wanted to talk about in this video, because yeah, generally you should I would suggest you play around with this kind of stuff here, because it's going to be very useful. As you can see, all of my effectors, my IK effectors here has been set, has its IK blend, translate and rotate set to 100. And let's see how long we have on the video. So we've got 9 minutes. So actually one way of doing something like this, so you know, you can double click up here, as a click that's going to select all your FK and IK effectors, but I don't know if there's a way other than what I'm doing here by selecting all these individually like this. and you will need to go into the foot as well and switch to the other foot as well and do that. And also for the, no, that's gonna be okay. No, actually we have these IK effectors as well, but you could do that, and then you could change the IK blend like that. But instead of, in case you wanted to do this, I realize this is probably a bad example, but in case you wanted to do something for several effectors at once, we could combine what we learned from the last time by searching for something, saying how can we figure out a way to find all the effectors. So I would take a look at the names here. So they all seem to be ending at effector. So if we click one of the FK effectors, they are not called effector. This is called up, right up leg. So here we can actually type in anything called effector to the end. We want to get them. And I'm just going to make this name a little bit shorter. And then type in component dot, and then let's see if we have that IK. We don't have anything called IK here. Nope. So property, or we can actually try, no, property list.find IK blend T data equals 0. So let's see what this does for us. As you can see, everything, all the IK effectors has now been for translate has been set to 0, and we can do the same for the rotation. And there we go. So that effectively just set all the IK effectors, IK blend and translate and rotate to 0. And that's actually going to come in handy at some time. So we can play around with this in a number of ways. So let's say you only wanted to, reset everything. So you could run this first, and we could, and then also reset this. Actually, I need to figure out if this has a clear method of some sort. So print this. Do we have a clear? Yeah, we do have a clear. Great. So let's say we clear all these to 0 and say fb my component list.clear. That's going to clear this list, and then we want to do another find here towards the end and say everything that's starting with let's say only the hands and the feet we wanted to have IK on, IK blend on. So they start with wrist, left wrist, and this one is called right wrist. So wrist effector, that's the same one. Great. And then we have the ankle, and we have the foot. So for now, let's just say we wanted to take the ankle. Anything called wrist and ankle, like this. And then we wanted to set these to 100, like this. So that's going to give you this result. It's going to turn up the blend for the wrists and the feet. And if you had this on, let's say you had something like a little blend on this and a little blend on this maybe, and something here, and you had, you know, yeah, everything was kind of mixed up. Then this script here is going to make sure that everything's going to be reset to this. Now, that's probably going to come in handy. So could define this as a function called, or method define, and call this reset default effectors. Effector reach. And then you want the colon, and you want to indent by pressing tab, and there we go. And that way you can just call this reset default effector reach. So yeah, now it's already done, but you get the point. And you can just execute that one line. So that is actually what I had for this video. I'm gonna figure out something interesting for the next, so stay tuned and see you. Bye bye.